All right, so MOVA just sent me their A10 diver to check out. Let's go ahead and get it in the water and see what it does. I need to say this before I get started. When any company sends me any product, they have to agree that I can say whatever I want to say. And they never have any influence over what that might be. I treat these the same way whether I purchase them or not. The company doesn't even get to see the video before it's released to the public. So if you find this kind of unbiased pool tech review helpful, then do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to help out and it doesn't cost you a thing. Now on to the MOVA Diver A10. You've probably noticed lately that everything is starting to say AI when it comes to pool cleaners. This is the MOVA A10 diver, and on paper it looks like one of the more advanced ones. AI path planning, edge focus cleaning, double pass waterline scrubbing, and up to 4 hours of runtime. But if you've watched any of my other videos, you already know what my question is. Does any of that make it clean better, or is that just stuff that sounds good on a box? And there was one thing I noticed right away when I pulled this one out of the box. The build quality on this is noticeably better than a lot of cleaners I've handled. I test a lot of these, so I could feel it immediately. That's when I started searching for who MOVA is as a company. Because I'll be honest, I'd never even heard of them prior to them reaching out with this pool cleaner. And if you're like me, you've probably never heard of MOVA before either. But when I pulled it out of the box, it made me curious because the build quality on this doesn't really feel like a company that's trying to figure something out for the first time. So I did some research, and basically what I found out was that MOVA is a smart home robotics company that's only recently started showing up in the pool space, especially here in North America. They're not just a random startup throwing together a pool cleaner. They've been working in robotic vacuums, smart home cleaning devices, AI-based navigation systems, and they're now expanding into outdoor robotics like pool cleaners and lawn mowers. That explains a lot because not only when I look at the specs, but particularly when I physically put my hands on it, it's just different in terms of build quality. So I want to give you a visual example of what I'm talking about when I talk about build quality and the way something feels. This black hook is your average hook that comes with your average mid-tier cleaner. It's fine, it works, but as you can see, it's kind of the lightest, cheapest plastic that a manufacturer could find. Whatever manufacturer that was, I don't know. This, on the other hand, is the hook that comes with the MOVA Diver A10. And you don't have to look very hard to tell that this is made out of a higher quality plastic in comparison to the thickness of the other hook. Just one small example of what I'm speaking of when I'm talking about build quality. And believe me, it's not just the hook, that's just the most visual thing I could find that was really quick that I could pick up to show it to you. Bottom line is, when they pay this much attention to what you're using to fish it out of the pool with, you kind of see where I'm going with the quality of the overall cleaner. The housing feels good, the handle feels more solid, the tracks feel more durable, and overall it just doesn't have that lighter, cheaper plastic feel that a lot of the cleaners in this price range have. Now, none of that means it's going to clean any better, but it does matter when it comes to long-term use, and that stood out immediately. Quick overview, this is a cordless robotic pool cleaner for in-ground pools. It's running a 169 watt-hour battery with up to 240 minutes of runtime. So it's on the higher end for cordless robotic cleaners in this price range. It's using a dual track system instead of wheels, which usually does help with traction, especially on slopes and walls. You've got a 3.5 liter basket with fine mesh and an optional fine mesh filter to go in front of it. So it's built to handle leaves and finer particles. And then you've got app control with multiple cleaning modes, and I'll show you that in a bit. But the main focus with this one is how it moves through your pool. So this uses what MOVA calls EdgePulse technology. And this is really the core of the navigation. Most cleaners in this range move in a pretty random pattern. They'll eventually get coverage, but it's not always efficient and you can end up with some missed spots. This one is constantly tracking where it is and adjusting as it moves, especially when it comes to getting near edges, walls, and transitions. So instead of just bouncing around, it's trying to clean more intentionally and spend more time in the areas where pools usually get the dirtiest, which is along the edges and up near the waterline. Now, whether that actually makes a difference, let's see. And speaking of the waterline, this one actually does a double pass at the waterline. So instead of just hitting it once and moving on, this one actually moves back to that same area again. That's important because that's where you get oils, sunscreens, and a lot of the buildup that's harder to clean. So between that AI-based camera navigation system and that second pass, it should be putting more focus on that area than most cleaners in this range. All right, so starting with the floor, I had a mix of debris here. Leaves, dirt, and some finer stuff. Suction is rated at 6,000 gallons per hour, and in real use, it did a good job. It picked up all the debris without any issues, and it handled the finer particles well. I had just brushed my pool, and there was a good bit of finer stuff. And part of that does come down to the filtration. This has a finer filtration setup than most cleaners in this range, so it's actually holding onto that finer debris rather than just moving it around or letting it pass through. Wall cleaning is really good. Those tracks definitely help here. It's able to climb consistently without a lot of slipping, and the transition from floor to walls is smooth most of the time. That's something I always look for because a lot of weaker cleaners struggle holding the walls, especially on the way back down. Now, watching how it moves, this is where that EdgePulse technology comes into play. And I'll say this, it does feel more controlled than your typical random cleaner. You can actually see it spending more time along the edges, getting closer to them, and changing directions in a way that feels more intentional. It's not perfect, but it does do a better job covering the pool without leaving obvious missed areas behind. So in terms of navigation, it's not just a claim, it is doing something different than most cleaners in this price range. At the waterline, you can clearly see the second pass. It comes across, moves off slightly, and then comes back again. That extra pass does help. It's not going to completely replace manual cleaning, but it does do a better job than a lot of other choices in this price range. I also wanted to see how it would handle a shallow section. This isn't really designed as a tanning ledge cleaner, and this pool doesn't really have a tanning ledge, but it does have a couple of shallow areas like my stair and the love seat at the back of the pool. And the result was pretty typical of what I've seen with the better cleaners in this price range. When there was enough water for it to stay fully submerged, it still functioned properly. But once it got too shallow, like my top stair over here, it just backs off of it and comes back into deeper water. So it can handle some shallow areas, but it's not specifically designed for that, and there is a limitation. I don't know exactly what that limitation would be in terms of inches of water it needs, but it handled all but my top stair. The app is fairly straightforward. You can choose different cleaning modes depending on what you want to focus on. Floors, walls, or full cleaning mode. I always usually start with full cleaning mode just to see how the unit's going to work, and then I test the others later. The app will also let you control things like where it parks when it's done, which does make it easier to grab. Other than that, though, there's really nothing complicated in it, and you can control the cleaning modes and the on and off, getting it started, all with a control panel. All right, so let's break it down. Cleaning ability, I'm at an 8.5 out of 10. It does a strong job overall, and the extra attention to edges in the waterline do make it stand out a bit. Suction power comes in at an 8.5 also. It's strong and consistent, and with that extra finer filtration setup, it does a better job capturing both larger and finer debris than a lot of cleaners in this range. Battery life is an 8. The runtime is good, but combined with the navigation, it's making really good use of the time. Navigation gets an 8.75. This is where it separates itself. The EdgePulse system makes it more consistent, and it reduces missed areas compared to typical random cleaners. And warranty is also an 8.75. You're getting a 2-year warranty, and combined with that better build quality, it gives me a little more confidence in how this is going to hold up over time. And this gives us a total score of 8.5. I felt like I should give this one extra credit for the build quality somewhere, to be fair though. Let me know in the comments if you think I should add build quality as another category when I'm scoring these cleaners. So overall, this is a really good choice if you're looking in that mid to upper level tier of pool cleaner. The biggest thing for me was the navigation and the edge focus cleaning. It actually does make a noticeable difference in some hard to reach areas. It feels a bit more consistent, a bit more intentional, and quite honestly, a bit more refined than a lot of the other cleaners I've tested in this price range. If you've got a larger pool and want something cordless with longer runtime and better coverage, this one is definitely worth looking at. I'll put a link down below in the description if you're interested in purchasing one or just checking prices. That is an affiliate link, and it does help the channel at no extra cost to you. I really appreciate all of you that use those. It really is the only way that I can make content like this, so thank you very much. And remember, belly flops build character.